Good evening, everybody. Welcome to vBrownbag US. Tonight, we're going to continue on with the AWS series. We have Chris Williams, our own Chris Williams from vBrownbag crew, who's going to give us Domain 1.0 Part 4, Designing Highly Available, Cost-Efficient, Fault-Tolerant, Scalable Systems. With that, I'm going to go ahead and change presenter.
Housekeeping rules. Damien wanted us to talk about VM Underground.
That's indeed very important. If anybody's going to VMworld and so far at this point doesn't have a VM Underground ticket, shame on you. That's where everybody's going to be.
That's where the party's at.
That's where the party is at, and also the vBrisket lunch. So hurry up. We'll go ahead and tweet that out with the vBrownbag hashtag. We'll tweet out the link right now.
Yeah, there's still tickets left. If you go to vmunderground.com, you can get in on that, and you can also get in on the Opening Acts tickets, which are also on vmunderground.com. And the Opening Acts tickets are free. The VM Underground tickets are not, but they are both available from there. And Damien has been harping on us to mention that. So you're welcome, Damien.
All right, let me try and make you presenter now.
All right, show my screen.
Awesome, I can see it.
Do you see my screen? Awesome, okay. So welcome everybody. As Ariel said, this is part 4. And we're gonna get this thing kicked off. We've got a lot of stuff to cover, but depending upon how many questions we get back and everything, we'll see how long it takes. Real quick, who am I? Chris Williams, Enterprise Consultant for Green Pages. Hey, how you doing? I'm also Mistwire. I'm a double VCAP. I've got VCPs 4 through 6. I'm an MCSE. I'm an AWS SA, which is why I'm talking tonight. I'm a vExpert, I'm a vTug leader, and I'm a vBrownbag host and presenter. Clearly, I was not loved as a child. This was all in an effort to get everybody to pay attention to me. So here I am. Why should we get an AWS certification? So this was pulled from Forbes recently, and the numbers, I have an issue with the numbers. I think that they do accurately reflect a certain level of expertise, but I disagree with the thinking that this kind of table predicates by saying that if you are brand new to IT and you go out and you get your AWS SA associate, I am doubtful that you will be able to get that kind of salary. If you can, good on you. I think that the being of a solutions architect wraps up in a much larger package than just getting one certification. You've got to be able to talk to people. You've got to be able to do use cases with your customers. You've got to gather your requirements, risks, assumptions, and constraints. So while this is a really cool graph, it's not the entire story. But that being said, AWS SA is at the top of it, and I just passed the exam in April, so that's why we're doing this, and we've gotten a lot of good feedback from this. So there's a lot of really good study material out there. Some of it comes directly from Amazon. Some of it comes from content that we at vBrownbag have generated. Some of it comes from a gentleman named Ryan Cronenberg over at A Cloud Guru. So the exam blueprint from Amazon obviously is what you want to first take a look at. It's 2 pages long. It covers the sections that you're going to need to know, and more importantly, how the different sections are weighted. There are specific sections that take up 60% of the weighting of the exam, and the rest of it is divvied up into the other ones. That's why we're spending a lot of time in Domain 1, because that is the 60% right there. When you go into the exam blueprint, you'll see the associate exam white papers that you should read for this. You have to read them. This video series that we're doing is good, but you have to read and understand these white papers. You don't have to memorize them, but you need to understand the overarching theme of how when you're asked a scenario question in the exam, you need to understand, okay, this is the thing that this customer is trying to get to. This is the theory behind where they're going for it, and that's going to lead you to the right answer. In terms of the VPC, Sarah Zelhusky gave a phenomenal VPC primer, and it's on the vBrownbag site. Oh, by the way, everybody that's watching right now, I posted my slide deck to my website. So if you go to mistwire.com right now, the main page actually has the very first link as a download to the slide deck. So if anybody wants to follow along, you're more than welcome. Sarah gave a fantastic primer on VPC. The IAM from Tim Patterson, the gentleman who gave the vBrownbag last week and who killer raised the bar for everybody else. Sorry for having me this week, but whatever. He gave one on IAM as well a long time ago. So I encourage you to take a look at both of these as well while you're studying. As I was going through it, I also created a very large laundry list of notes, which I'm actually going to be using as I'm talking here, of the entire study series. So that's another great source. Alex Galbraith also created one, which is fantastic. But to be perfectly honest, the two things that I used before I created all this stuff, I was actually the one that hosted this one. The Exam Blueprint and A Cloud Guru were the two main sources that I used. I cannot underscore better how fantastic the A Cloud Guru training videos are. He does a really amazing job. So, what we're going to talk about this evening is hybrid IT architectures. And in that space, we're going to cover Direct Connect, Storage Gateway, Directory Services, and we're going to wrap it up with a VPC live demo, and we'll see how that goes. So first off, we've got Direct Connect, and these are the symbols. I brought the symbols in, so you don't need to know what the symbols are for the test, but I think they're kind of neat. So straight from the Amazon website, Direct Connect, AWS Direct Connect makes it easy to establish a dedicated network connection from your premises to AWS. Using AWS Direct Connect, you can establish private connectivity between AWS and your data center. Actually, I should have. So everything that I've put in red here are things that I remember as being relevant to the test. Private connectivity should also be read. Between your AWS data center and your data center, office or colo environment, which in many cases can reduce your network costs, increase bandwidth throughput, and provide more consistent network experiences than an internet-based connection. So a typical scenario question around this would be, a customer wants to have a more reliable than internet connection, reduce their cost, or they want to have a much fatter pipe to their VPC. When a question pops up like that, you want to start thinking Direct Connect. One of the caveats from an examination perspective, if the scenario says that they need it immediately, then that will knock Direct Connect out of contention, because this is slower to provision than a VPN, because it is an actual physical connection from your customer's headquarters or from your site to an AWS Connect location, and then from the AWS Connect location up to the availability zone. It bypasses the ISP in your network path, so it does not traverse the internet. What happens is you will procure rack space within a facility housing the AWS Direct connection. And all of these hyperlinks that I have are, so this one right here is the link to the actual listing of all of the Direct Connect locations. And then deploy your equipment in there. Once you've deployed your equipment there, an AWS person will then establish a cross-connect from your equipment over to the AWS stuff. And I've got a graph after this to kind of spell that out. Uses a cross-connect, talks over 802.1q to access both S3, both the public and the private AWS resources. In terms of availability, it's 10 gigs, 1 gig, and you can get sub 1 gig groups through AWS Direct Connect partners. All of this is testable material. So how is it done? So if you are fortunate enough to actually have your equipment already in a colo that is also a Direct Connect facility, then you're golden. All you have to do is pay the fee. AWS sets you up. They do this piece right here, and then they have dark fiber running from the Direct Connect facilities out to the super secret availability zone locations, which nobody knows the locations of. Wink, wink. If you're local, then you would establish a directly dedicated provision circuit over to the Direct Connect facility. This is the part that you, as the customer, would take care of. This part is the part that the AWS provider would take care of for you. Okay, so any questions about Direct Connect? No?
So
Good.
far there was only one question, and they confirmed to me, sorry, it was a mistake. So far no questions. Oh,
Okay.
actually, I do see Graham put in there.
Hey, Graham.
You still need to connect your kit in the rack. Do you still need to go over the internet? Oh, private wire out to site. He's talking connectivity.
Yeah. This is a private wire from your HQ to the Direct Connect facility, and this is all non-internet stuff. So the big thing about Direct Connect from an examination perspective is there is no internet involved in this. This is sold as a much more highly stable connection because it is not internet facing, and this actually kind of ties in a little bit into the storage gateway, which we'll get into in a second. But yes, you're absolutely correct. It's all provisioned, private, and non-internet facing.
Excellent.
Okay.
Thank you.
So the next topic is going to be storage gateways. So storage gateways is I ran into quite a few questions about these. So I'm not sure if that's a popular exam topic in general, or if I just got luck of the draw. But storage gateway is a service connecting an on-premise software appliance, i.e. a VM that you run inside of your data center, with cloud-based storage to provide a seamless and secure integration between your organization's on-premises IT environment and AWS's storage infrastructure. Service allows you to securely store data in the AWS cloud for scalable and cost-effective storage. Notice the red letters. The AWS Storage Gateway supports industry-standard storage protocols that work with your existing applications. Again, red letters. It provides low-latency performance by maintaining frequently accessed data on-prem while securely storing all of your data encrypted in the S3 or Amazon Glacier. And we're going to get into the differences between some of them. Hold on one second.
I have to say, I love the highlighting of red letters.
Well, so as I was taking my exam, I ran into certain things that triggered, and I'm not obviously I'm not giving you any questions or anything like that. This isn't a brain dump, but these are the important themes that I want a person that is going to go into the exam to understand that they as being pertinent. So. Like I said, this is a popular exam topic. What you've got is a local VM that's either VMware or Hyper-V, and it provides a seamless and secure connection between your environment and the AWS storage infrastructure. It's async replication. Async should be in red, actually. This is an async replication process, and it backs up to S3 as an EBS snapshot. And the data is stored within a single region, and that is user specified. And if I'm not 100% positive about this, but I think that it's a single region, but it is replicated out to up to a potential of 3 different availability zones, if you have 3 availability zones in the environment. But don't quote me on that because I'm not sure. But that's not on the test, so that's not something that's going to be important. And like I said before, it's either a VMware or Hyper-V appliance. The appliance will run on VMware or Hyper-V. So there are 3 types of storage gateways, and the 3 types are a very testable topic. First, you've got your gateway stored volume, where your S3 cloud is effectively your backup. So you have your entire data set on premises, and you do an async backup up to S3. You can create storage volumes up to 16 terabytes and size and mount them as SCSI devices in your environment. This is effectively used for offsite backups, or you can you can do them as an offsite backup. You can recover them locally, or you can actually spin them up inside of as an EC2 instance in your VPC as well. It's constantly replicating the changes up to S3 in the form of Amazon EBS snapshots, like I said before. So in the gateway stored volume, you effectively have all of your data on site, and then you're running a quick backup up to your S3 bucket. With a gateway cached volume, you actually have think of the gateway cache volume essentially as local caching, with your S3 bucket as effectively being your SAN array. So only the most frequently accessed data is stored on premises, and your entire data set is stored up in S3. I don't know what the percentage of split is or the frequency of hit rates, but that is also not on the exam either. So what you can do is you can also create storage volumes up to 32 terabytes and size and mount them as iSCSI devices similar to the gateway stored volumes. The drawback of this is if you lose internet access, you will lose access to your data. So that's the big gotcha for that. My thinking around this is you can actually couple this with Direct Connect, because with Direct Connect, you're supposed to have these, stable, reliable, big fat pipe connection, coupled with a gateway cache volume, so that you effectively use your S3 bucket as your SAN with locally cached volumes. From a examination perspective, one potential scenario, and this wasn't a question I had, but a potential scenario that would be is the customer is spinning up a new environment. They don't have enough money to buy a SAN. So if price is at a premium, then that would make you think of a gateway cached volume instead, because you can effectively not have a SAN array and just have large disks running your gateway cached virtual appliance. Okay, and so then there's the gateway virtual tape library as well. So this is a virtual tape backup. So what it does is it exposes your iSCSI interface so that popular applications such as NetBackup, BackupExec, Veeam, etc. can point directly to your virtual tape library and replace all of your physical tapes. So you effectively have a limitless collection of virtual tapes. The virtual tape library is S3, and the virtual tape shelf goes to Amazon Glacier. And in the previous classes, we actually had the discussion about the differences between S3 and Glacier, which you should also note for the exam. Amazon Glacier being the one where it takes longer to pull data from Glacier than it takes to pull from S3. You can have up to 10 virtual tape drives per gateway, and I think you can have multiple. I can't remember off the top of my head how many gateways you can have. I think you can have up to 10 gateways, but don't quote me on that. That's a Google question. But again, that's not on the exam. So the virtual tape library is if you want to get rid of your tape library in an exam scenario, and so for example, your tape library is going end of life, and you want to use something else, and you can go, well, I'd pick VTL. Okay, so sorry, I kind of went through that a little bit too quickly. Are there any questions about storage gateways?
No, I honestly think that, first of all, it's very cool that there's a virtual tape library. Graham did ask, we hear this, is it really good performance comparable to a SAN? Because I know, for example, Glacier is supposed to be really, really slow.
Well, the performance of the VTL is going to be,
terrible.
So I honestly I don't know, but in terms of running stuff off the tape, your performance is going to be horrible anyway.
Yeah.
The performance of the gateway cached volume, depending upon how good your hit rate is and how much has to go from across the pipe, it's either locally cached great performance or across the internet type performance. The performance of a gateway store. So if performance is a primary concern of yours, you would go with a gateway stored volume where you keep everything local on a true SAN. If you have a performance type issue and you always need access to all of your data and you have a spotty internet connection or any mix of those three in a scenario connection, then that will dictate to you what type of option you want to go to for the different scenarios.
Oh, yeah. Basically, you have your tiers, and then you can choose what you do with your tiers.
Exactly, and your tiers are going to be dedicated or predicated upon what your use case is. Oops. All right. Sorry. Cool. Okay, so up next is directory services. I'm going to be honest with you. I did not get any directory services questions specifically. I did get a couple of drill down questions, which I'll go into some of the specifics of those particular types. But the directory services questions, I didn't see anything about them specifically. AWS Directory Service is a managed service offering. It provides directories that contain information about your organization, including users, groups, computers. It's effectively AD. You can have 3 different directory types. Notice the red. Including AWS Directory Services for Microsoft AD, Enterprise Edition, also referred to as AD, Simple AD, and AD Connector. As a managed offering, AWS Directory Service is designed to reduce management tasks, thereby allowing you to focus more of your time and resources on your business. There is no need to build out your own complex, highly available directory topology because each directory is deployed across multiple availability zones. You guys are watching all this red stuff too, right? Okay, good. And monitoring automatically detects and replaces domain controllers if fail. So what this, basically the stuff that I ran into was a question around federation and the effective use of ADFS and SAML. I would encourage you guys to, so like I said, the links are provided in the slide deck, and the slide deck is on my website. This blog post is fantastic. I encourage you to understand that the SAML assert, so first off, know the sequence. Know how the flow is initiated, know the points of where the user initiates the connection, what it hits first, what it hits second, what it hits third, et cetera, et cetera. Know that the entire process is done with a SAML assertion tag, and yeah, basically that's it. Know that it's SAML, and know what your sequence is for Active Directory federated services. There was another question about how to use AD using the AWS AD connector. Again, we have a fantastic link up here, and then we have the process. This is all ripped directly from AWS's website. User opens a custom sign-in page, goes over the secure sign-in, talks to the AD connector. AD connector communicates with Active Directory. The key is generated. Again, know the sequence of events. Know what happens during each sequence, and make sure that you understand if a question asks you, like if a question over here asks you, do you get the SAML assertion tag before the end user talks to Active Directory federated services, you would know that the answer is no, and you'd be able to answer a scenario question that involves that. So like I said, I didn't get beat up too bad on directory services. So one thing that I did get beat up on a lot was VPCs. So, excuse me for 1 second.
It's really cool that you're, telling people, hey, listen, really focus on this kind of thing. Pretty good.
Sorry, I had a frog in my throat.
No worries.
Okay, I'm back. So the Amazon VPC. This was a big bit. This was a big chunk of the exam. I would encourage anybody that's going for this to sign up for the free Amazon account. Get in there, get your hands dirty with the VPCs. Learn how to create a VPC manually. There are fast ways in there, and I'm going to show them to you in a second, on how you can quickly and easily spin up an environment just with a click of a button. know how to create them manually so that you know how all of how the individual pieces interact. So a VPC is a logically isolated section of the AWS cloud where you can launch AWS resources in a virtual network that you define. You have complete control over your virtual networking environment, including the segmentation of IP addresses, creation of subnets, configuring route tables, and network gateways. You can easily customize the network to configure your Amazon Virtual Private Cloud. You have multiple layers of security, including security groups and network access control lists to help you access the Amazon EC2 instances on each subnet. So security groups, network access control lists, go through all those pieces in the white papers, and know how to create those. So again, a couple of shameless plugs. Like I said before, Sarah nailed this one with the VPC intro. This is a 45-minute long talk. It would definitely behoove you to watch this. This helped me out tremendously, and I can't speak highly enough about it. I actually have a walkthrough on how to do exactly what I just said. Know how to build a custom VPC from memory. It's right over here, and we're going to actually do that in a second. But if you want to watch the step-by-step, there's a link for it right there. If you need an AWS account to get started, I actually wrote an article about that too. How to get your free AWS account and spin up your first VM. And there's also a little gotcha in there, not a gotcha, but you know. I've also written an article on how to create an alerting, a monitor, so that you don't accidentally start charging yourself, because you can. With the free AWS account, you can accidentally start getting charged for stuff. So set up a little alert for yourself so that you don't, at the end of the month, get a bill from AWS that you're like, wait, what happened? That didn't happen to me because I actually set it up. So I was that's not from the trenches. Okay. So, I was playing with Bitmoji. If you
oh my God! I'm sorry. Was I not on mute? I just so Amy Manley, Nick Collier and Amy Manley just got me turned on to that. I was talking with Nick after his AWS exam, not his exam, but his vBrownbag, and the topic of Bitmojis came up, and so that happened. I'm very embarrassed. Yeah. Okay. So let's do a live demo of the creation of a VPC, and this is from scratch. So always use an MFA when you've set up your account. So I'm going to get my little authenticator out here. And we are in. Okay. So this is the interface, obviously. And what we're going to do is we are going to go into the VPC section. And where am I at right now? I'm in Tokyo. So up here you've got your regions. I spend most of my time in US East because that's the fastest for me. The next fastest would be either London, wait, where's Ireland? There we go. Let's go to Ireland. And I'm just going there because it's completely clean, and I know that just the default stuff from Ireland is there. So if we go into the VPC environment, you've got a couple of different options. You can either start up a VPC and create a VPC manually, or you can use the wizard. Now, the wizard gets them up for you quickly and accurately, and honestly, I use these more, but because I needed to learn the entire process, so that in the event that something breaks, so I mean, you basically just you've got your single public, a public and a private, plug in a private with a hardware VPN, yada 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 yada. That's all well and good. We're gonna do it the hard way. This is like when your math teacher taught you math,
learning tables and memorizing everything, and then handed you a calculator afterwards. We're gonna learn the hard way. So we're in the VPC section. We're gonna spin up a new VPC called Mistwire VPC, CIDR block of 10.10.10/16. And so tenancy is either default or dedicated. If you want to have dedicated networking equipment, excuse me, EC2. I don't know if it's actually here. Here we go. Dedicated instance, dedicated.
Hey, Chris, quick question.
Yes. Yes.
Why would you use such a big CIDR block for that?
Normally, so that's a great question. I do it because everything in my home lab is a giant 10 dot, and that's what I use. If you are spinning up something for a customer, depending upon whether or not you have a different IP range for a different section that you're going to be connecting from, you might want to choose something different just for ease of logical separation in your head. I just use this because I'm crazy. This is my one VPC in Tokyo, and each VPC is their own VPC. So you can have the same 10 dot as long as you're not peering or anything. You can have the same ones talking with the same IP addresses on the back end. Did I answer your question?
Yeah, thanks.
Okay. So I've got my Mistwire VPC established, and now I'm going to. So once you've created it, you'll see that you automatically get a route table created as well. The Mistwire VPC route table is automatically created a route table is automatically created once you create your VPC. I remember something about that being in the exam, something around route tables. So they're automatically created when you create a VPC. So now we're going to spin up a couple of subnets. Call this one 10.0.1.0/24. Put this in the Mistwire VPC. Okay, so these are all the VPCs that are in this particular region, and these are all the availability zones that you can create your subnet in. Subnets are specific to availability zones. That is also the type of question that you might get asked. You cannot have a subnet that spans AZs.
So if we map this to a physical thing, we basically have separate data centers all in the same region, and they're telling us, listen, the network is not shared between these separate data centers.
Yeah, well, I mean, so the subnets themselves can be in different availability zones, but they're within the same region.
Yeah. Okay.
Make that one there. And we'll make another one called 10.0.2.0/24, and we'll put this one in a different AZ. And that's enough for now. Normally, I mean, we've got 3 availability zones, but I'll just make 2. So you'll notice, for all of you networking guys out there, that we do not have 254 available IP addresses. The reason for that is because Amazon shaves 3 IP addresses out of the mix. Technically, they shave 5 IP addresses, but they take out 10.0.2.0 and 10.0.2.255, which are unusable anyway. But they also take out 10.0.2.1, 2.2, and 2.3, I think. Which I know that. So hold on, let me. They take out IP addresses. and they take out 3 usables. I think it's 1, 2, and 3. I'm gonna have to double check that in a second. But
hey, Chris.
Yep.
Graham has another question, and said that he presumes that there's nothing stopping us from firing up a VPN appliance and bridging between availability zones. Is that accurate?
Yes, that is accurate. Actually, you can set up actually that's one of the AMIs that you can put in the environment and have them do that for you. So the answer is yes. Okay, so I've got my 2 subnets set up, and I've got my route table set up. I've got my subnets going. So now that I've got my 2 subnets, each one in a different availability zone, the next thing that I need to do is create an internet gateway. So internet gateways are not created by default when you manually create one. What you want to do is internet gateway, create, and then you have to attach it to your VPC. It is not attached by default, and you can only have 1 internet gateway per VPC. I specifically remember something about that being one of the questions was, you know, can you have multiple it was something along the lines of how many IGWs can you have? The answer is exactly 1. So, and DHCP option sets. Okay, so the internet gateway is attached to the VPC, and now we need to go into the route table and create a internet access route table. It's going to Mistwire VPC.
Is there anywhere, and maybe you're going to get to it if it does exist, Chris, but is there anything that visually represents how all these VPCs and availability zones are interconnected with each other?
No. Not that I know of. You know, I use Visios and I sketch them out on whiteboards, but in terms of a graphical representation that Amazon provides, I don't know of one, but that clearly doesn't mean anything. If Tim were here, he might be able to answer that question. I don't know of one. Okay, so you need to create a new route for your internet access in your environment. So you click on your internet access route. You go down to your routes here. Routes. Click on. Wait, hold on one second. Routes. Edit. Add another route. So this is going to be my default route out, which is 10.0.0.0. And when you click on the target, it automatically pops up with the internet gateway that you have. And so you click that. That defaults out. So now you've created your route that's going to shove all of your traffic out of your internet gateway. So now you need to associate subnets to that. So I've created my 2 subnets, my 10.0.1 and my 10.0.2. If I wanted the 10.0.1 to be my internet facing and my 10.0.2 to be my internal private, then I would edit this and I would add 10.0.1 to my subnet association for my internet access route out. Create the subnet association, hit save, and effectively that's it. So now I should be able to go into an EC2 instance Actually, I'm not going to go through the entire process because I don't have any key pairs in this environment, and I'd have to decrypt it and everything. So effectively, my 10.0.1 now has internet access. You can spin up an EC2 instance in the 10.0.1 range and get out to the internet right now. Yeah, that's pretty much it.
So presumably, everything you just did through the web browser, knowing, full disclosure, I know nothing about AWS, but from what I understand,
that's okay, I don't either.
You can do just about all that stuff via API as well, is that right?
Yes, that is correct. There are programmatic interfaces for spinning up and spinning down. Everything that we did automatically, but I do not know how to. I know that it can be done. I just don't know how it's done.
And actually, I had a good question to what you were saying. What if I'm the network guy and have to do this over the web interface, but the persons that are going to deploy the servers haven't signed on yet? Do I have any way to test or tell it, hey, give me some trace routes or some things, or do I really need to set up at least a small Linux VM?
So there might be a way to test it from the gateway. I don't know specifically, but the way that I would do it is I would spin up, a tiny little free AMI and just basically, run a yum update and hit it out there.
Awesome. Okay. Well, with that, let's make sure that we get some questions from the audience.
Is everybody asleep?
No, I don't think so.
I totally bored everybody.
Larry Smith has actually given us some great links for Ansible modules to do all of this that we're doing through the web interface. So we'll tweet those out.
Oh, nice. Thanks, Larry.
Graham is asking us, so how do you provision real IP addresses to route into your VPC? So he's talking about, all right, this is all very nice, but how do we connect it to the real world?
How do you provision real IP addresses to route into your VPC? So I mean, when you create an AMI, it's basically you get an IP address that your provisioned IP addresses in the real world. So in terms of how would you set up a route to it, you would do it the way that you would do any other route.
I'm guessing that you would definitely, knowing your IP, you set your DNS and people will arrive.
Yeah. And I mean, there are far better people to answer networking questions than myself.
Mm-hmm.
The important part about that question is that's not on the test.
So
while I definitely want to know the answer to that, that is not going to be something that you're going to run into in the examination.
Okay, and one thing that we haven't talked about is, okay, how do you set up your edge, your firewall, whatever you want to do? So one question that we have is, for the internet gateway, do you have to set up a NAT, like some other solutions we shall not name, or does it do it automatically for you?
I do not know the answer to that question. I am the least networking network person that that's going to be on for these. I would highly encourage. Well, I would have highly encouraged these questions of Tim Patterson last week, but I think Brian's coming up pretty soon, and he would definitely be an awesome person to hit up for a resource like that. I can definitely Google it after the fact, but that's not something that you're going to run into in the examination.
Which is always good to know.
Mm-hmm.
All right, and Larry I think is trying to help us. He says it should route everything for that network defined in the VPC to pull IP and the default gateway should be provided via the gateway. So assuming that you get the HCP, you get everything. It apparently is set up automatically. Yeah.
Cool. Thanks, Larry. I appreciate that.
Yep.
That's what I love about this community. We have tons of really good people in front of the mic and behind the mic to help out. That's awesome.
Exactly.
Cool.
Adam, do you have any other questions?
Not that I can think of. This was really cool, though.
Yes,
really good to see the demo. I appreciate it, Chris.
Yeah, no problem. And Adam, if you want to have a chat about it afterwards, you know, we can tip off and work on that stuff. It's really fun. I love puttering around in the environment. It's there's lots of cool stuff that you can do and get away with, staying under the free tier. And if you want to spend a little bit of money and start, you know, getting your DNS name cut over to Route 53 and everything, it's even cooler.
All right. I think we are done.
Neat.
With
All right,
that,
gentlemen. Well, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I was just going to say I want to thank everybody for attending. And if anybody has questions seeing the recording, you can always tweet out to #vBrownbag, and we'll try to get your questions answered. Go ahead and do your closing.
Cool. Thanks, Ariel.
All right. Thank you, everybody. Bye-bye.
All right, bye.